Hello, everyone. So, obviously, this is not my usual setup. I am doing a bit of traveling right now, so for now, this will have to do. But first things first, I wanted to wish you guys a happy 2025, a happy new year. 2024 was a great year for me, and I'm just really happy to have you guys sticking around, and I'm just really happy to be here. And I'm excited to see what 2025 holds. But you know who's probably not having the best new year? Ubisoft. I kind of want to give you guys a rundown of what transpired in 2024 because that may very well be the worst year that Ubisoft has ever seen as a company, and one of the worst years that I've seen a gaming company go through, just one miss after another. And what that means for Ubisoft in 2025 and what they have to do to come back if they have a chance to do so. So it all began back in late 2023 when Avatar Frontiers of Pandora launched, and late 2023 is still part of fiscal year 2024 for Ubisoft. Not only did Avatar Frontiers of Pandora not have sales figures disclosed, which usually happens when a game sells poorly enough or companies just don't want to flaunt that, but also this is a game that saw 40% off its price point less than 2 weeks after launch, just 12 days after its release. So not a lot of people bought this game that was licensed, Avatar being this obviously huge IP. They made essentially an open world out of it, and that was just not something that sold. Numbers that Ubisoft would expect. It didn't do, Assassin's Creed numbers or even Far Cry numbers. Then came the launch of Skull and Bones in early 2024, and with that, a report on February of 2024 that Skull and Bones launched to less than 1 million players total, and that also includes free trial players. So within that 1 million players total, a significant portion of that was because the game had a free trial. So in terms of the people who stayed after the free trial, that is a significantly lesser portion of that 1 million players total. So Skull and Bones kind of crashed and burned while they're still planning to make seasonal content for it. Currently, if you look at Steam charts, you can see that player numbers are in the low triple digits. The all-time peak is nothing to really flaunt about. So this is a game that is in dire straits. Ubisoft wants to stick with it for the long term by continuing to release seasonal content, but whether that is a good idea or not, whether that will be just a waste to invest in a game that doesn't really seem to be picking up, I suppose only time will tell. And then in May of 2024, Ubisoft canceled the live service The Division Heartland. The company said that they'll move resources to bigger opportunities such as X-Defiant and Rainbow Six. Funny thing about X-Defiant is that it would later shut down, as I've reported on numerous times. But yeah, The Division was supposed to receive a new entry. It was supposed to be a free-to-play shooter, and just things didn't go well for that particular project. And then in late 2024 came the launch of Star Wars Outlaws, and that is one game that you'd expect to sell quite a few units, given that it's Star Wars we're talking about, but the appeal of it throughout the marketing campaign just didn't resonate. And so on September of 2024, it was reported that Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies in the month since it launched. For a major AAA game like Star Wars Outlaws, for something that had so much money invested into it, on top of the fact that it had a license, the Star Wars IP, it needed to sell way more units than this for it to return the expenses, and it just didn't manage to do that. 1 million copies in a month for a AAA game of this scale by Ubisoft standards, by AAA publisher standards, is just an abysmal result. Rumor has it that Star Wars Outlaws sold even less than Avatar Frontiers of Pandora did. There's also the fact that Prince of Persia Lost Crown. That is unfortunately a game that I think suffered in its marketing, but turned out to be a really good game. It's a great Metroidvania that unfortunately got lost by the wayside when it comes to the gaming community's interest in it. And so it sold rather poorly, so poorly, in fact, that Ubisoft decided to disband the team behind Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, which is a shame because they actually made a really good game, and I feel like if the team was nurtured to continue to make games like these, this is something that could have grown over time, but Ubisoft wants immediate results, and so they go for kind of the trend-chasing experiences. that they believe will surely, bring in the profits that they're looking forward to. And then came the shutdown of Defiant. This is something that I reported on previously with other videos. Well, Defiant would also turn out to be a poor investment, as the free-to-play game could not maintain itself. It did not draw in enough players, and it did not have enough recurrent spending from players for it to be something that Ubisoft could keep pouring money into with continuous seasonal updates. And so not only did Ubisoft shut down Defiant in late 2024, but they also laid off half of its team, nearly 300 people. And this is despite the fact that Ubisoft leadership, in particular Defiant's game director, promised that the game would not be shutting down, that they had year 2 still planned. And this was a promise that not only players were led to believe, but also developers. And so the developers who thought, they would be employed for longer and that Ubisoft would continue to try to give this game the support that, say, Rainbow Six Siege got despite its rough launch, or For Honor got despite its rough launch. It ultimately didn't get that, and so it came as a surprise to both players and developers alike. And those are just the projects that sold disappointingly, or the ones that led to studios getting shut down or people getting laid off. There's still the delayed titles to speak of. So there's Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time remake, which was supposed to launch some time back, but the trailer for it was so poorly received that Ubisoft decided to essentially rebuild it from the ground up. And so the release date of this Sands of Time remake has been pushed back to all the way to 2026. And so it's even more wasted time, money, and resources into a project that's going through a rough development process. And then there's, of course, Assassin's Creed Shadows, which was supposed to launch in late 2024, but was delayed to 2025. I believe it's reported that developers insisted on this delay because the game was just not ready for release. And then there are all of the marketing issues surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows with, cultural elements that people have deemed to be kind of inconsiderate in the way they have not been fully authentic in some regards, or not fully gotten the significance of certain things, like this one piece of figurine or merchandise that had the one-legged Torii gate, which has some dark implications behind it. It is a remnant of the Nagasaki bombing, and so the fact that they were trying to make merch out of that, the fact that they didn't do the research to be able to see why that'd be wrong, and among other things, just caused a lot of controversy for this title. But it is an Assassin's Creed game, and ultimately this tends to be a series that sells incredibly well, and with the Japan setting kind of garnering so much attention, I do think that Assassin's Creed Shadows will be a bit of an uptick for Ubisoft's finances, but one game alone can't carry an entire company. So what else they have in 2025 will determine whether they can recover from this awful, abysmal year, or if they're just going to rely on Assassin's Creed Shadows to build themselves back up, which this by itself I don't see having that kind of effect. And then you have the games that who knows when the hell they'll come out. Beyond Good and Evil 2. This is a game that was announced forever ago, and it seems like it'll still take forever for it to release, but they insisted as of June 24th, 2024 that Beyond Good and Evil 2 still exists, that it's still in development. But once again, it's another case of a game's troubled development that has led to a lot of manpower, money, and resources being wasted. Just a huge time and money sink, which is the last thing that Ubisoft needs right now, with project after project, endeavor after endeavor failing for them, especially in 2024. And then tied up in all of that are things like the strike that happened back in late 2024, where a bunch of Ubisoft France staff walked out on a 3-day strike and dispute over homeworking and pay. A lot of workers are fighting for remote work to be standardized, and having in-office work to not be mandated, especially 3 days a week. And it has been proven, especially throughout COVID, that remote work and functioning from remote locations is entirely possible. It's just a safer, more convenient option that allows for better work-life balance and doesn't force people to move cross-country or whatnot and upend their lives to work for a company that then just might lay them off anyway. We're talking about an industry that is very unstable when it comes to long-term employment, so remote work at the very least gives them some kind of safety net. And so workers are protesting that, hundreds of Ubisoft staff. And then beyond the internal strife, there's the fact that Ubisoft has been performing so poorly financially that they're actually thinking of a buyout and taking the company private alongside Tencent. But even within that, they have issues with disputes over who gets to control the company, with Tencent wanting greater control, but the GMOs not accepting that. The GMOs still ultimately want to be in charge. They don't want Tencent to take over. And so even that aspect is seeing a lot of trouble and a lot of turmoil. So it's just been failure after failure, internal strife, internal turmoil, and just them having to weigh their options as the company's downfall continues. And so I honestly don't know how 2025 will shape out for Ubisoft. Among the major AAA publishers, this is the company that feels like it's in most trouble, and Assassin's Creed Shadows will have to do gangbusters for it to give investors any semblance of confidence that Ubisoft can start making a comeback. But over the long term, for Ubisoft to maintain itself, Assassin's Creed Shadows by itself won't do. They'll have to release a consistent cadence of high-quality titles that sell well, but it feels like the staleness of a lot of their game releases has kind of caught up to them, which is why the likes of Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which use a lot of the same blueprint as other Ubisoft games, just haven't sold as well. And so Ubisoft will have to make some dramatic changes in their output and in the way they work and develop games and the budgetary elements. And they'll have to take their creativity up another level if they intend to re-spark interest from both players and investors alike, or this downfall will continue until Ubisoft implodes and just ultimately becomes not viable as a company to compete in the long term, when the landscape is filled with so many other companies who have this consistent output and have established themselves with IPs and games that output quality and that people look forward to. Ubisoft is just starting to lose the plot here, and 2025 will be a vital year. How they handle 2025 will say a lot about whether they are long for this world or whether they will fizzle out unceremoniously. And so yeah, this is a company to keep an eye out for, especially with the beloved IPs that they have under their umbrella. Hopefully either Ubisoft will do right by those IPs or they'll find better homes. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the current state of Ubisoft and the turmoil that they went through in 2024 and what you think they need to do in 2025 for them to recover. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.